As we wrestle with our doubts and our fears, that our doubts don't dictate God's distance. Our doubts don't dictate distance. Look what it says in verse 27. Then he said to Thomas, put your finger here and look at my hands. Put your hand into the wound in my side. Don't be faithless any longer. Believe. He's giving him something to believe in. Something tangible, something real, something that Thomas can see and touch and feel in the middle of his life. Now, Jesus could have responded to Thomas's doubt in a lot of different ways. You know, he could have been real annoyed with him and told him, listen, Thomas, I've been telling you about this for 3 years. 3 years of ministry, man. We've been walking around the countryside telling people that the Son of Man is going to be raised from the dead. Like, did I stutter when I was talking about that? How are you having a hard time getting your mind behind this? Come on, man, you got to get with the program. Jesus also could have told Thomas how disappointed he was with him. Like, Thomas, I just wish you had faith that was the size of a mustard seed. Man, we're talking like minuscule in this. And it just makes me sad that after everything we've been through in life, after all the time that we've spent together, that this is how you respond to me, by questioning me. Like, that's just so disappointing. You are such a disappointment. I think for a lot of people, the reason that they don't come to church anymore is because they went through something, and on the other side of that, what they felt from people is something that they were afraid they were experiencing from God, and that's distance. That's distance. It's not okay to have doubt in the church. It's not okay to wrestle through your fears and your worries. It's not okay to not be okay. So many people think that when you doubt, God is distant. That the reason you're doubting is that there's a space, there's a gap between you and God. That God is distant when we're afraid, and he's distant when we struggle. The reality is that it's not just with Thomas, but with everybody in the Bible. When people doubt the most and are struggling the hardest, what you find in the Bible is that that's when God is nearest. That's when God is nearest. The prodigal son comes home. And the father is doing what? He's running out to meet him. Abraham is afraid. Thought he was too old to get on the ride. God made a covenant with him and said, I'm going to promise you this right here, right now. Paul, the Apostle Paul, called himself the worst of sinners, chief among sinners. He said, listen, I was too far gone. Nobody would understand how gone I was. God stopped him on the road and he said, not only am I right here, and not only am I not going anywhere, but I'm going to make you the biggest fanboy and commercial of this ride that the world has ever seen, and you're going to testify to the fact that this is not the ride that you thought that it was. Moses said, I've got some serious doubts about what you're asking me to do and this ride you're asking me to take and this plan for my life based on my own public speaking ability and all that kind of mess. God said, I'm going to tell you what to say. I'm going to walk you through it. We're going to go step by step. The Bible says that God is near to the brokenhearted. He is closer than a brother, and yet we worry that our doubt means that God is distant. So many people, when they experience doubts about their faith, they think that it's a sign that God has left them, that God has abandoned them, that if God was really with me, you know, that the person that hurt me wouldn't have done what they've done, that if God was really with me, this ride wouldn't be so scary. If God was really with me, he wouldn't have let my dad get sick. If God was really with me, I would feel it differently if God was really with me. And what Thomas shows us, in fact, what the entire Bible bears witness to, is the fact that the way that you feel about your life doesn't dictate how near or far God is within it. In fact, let's just take it a step further. The way you feel about God doesn't dictate whether God is near or far from you. Your feelings are not God's barometer. They're just not. Doubts do not determine distance. When Thomas gives voice to his doubt, Jesus didn't distance himself. He walks up to him and he says, let me show you the wounds. Put your hands right here. Put your hands on my side. Where they stabbed me, you watched them stab me. Now, come on, come and see it. Moving in closer. Make it more personal. Okay, let me show you my scars and let's walk through this doubt of yours. So listen, I don't know what kind of doubts you're living with today or that you're walking through in your faith, but here's what I do know. I do know that twice we're told in this text that locked doors do not keep doubts out. Okay? They just don't. Like if I just don't want to deal with it, a lot of times, what do we want to do? We want to go bury our head in the sand, pull the covers over our head, lock the door, and shut it all away. It's going to be okay if I can just get away from it. The disciples didn't know what to do because they're scared of the ride ahead of them. They're scared of the Jewish authorities, scared of the Roman authorities, scared of what people would do when they see them. They're scared of what people are going to say. How are they going to react? Maybe I'm going to be next. Sometimes church acts like this with doubts. We act like a bunch of people just locking the doors, right? We want to get everyone in here, and we just want to huddle up, and we want to lock the doors, and nobody ever has to ride the ride ever again. If you don't want to, you can just stay right here. Nobody has to ride Everest. We're going to lock the world out. We're going to lock up our minds. We're going to lock up our spirits. And we're not going to think about anything. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to learn anything. We're not going to say anything. We're not going to experience anything that's about what's out there on the ride. Because what we learn and what we do and what we experience could mean that God is way farther away from us than we think. So we just want everybody to stay right here because this is where God is close and this is where it's safe. So somebody go out there and lock the doors so nobody has to go ride the ride of their week. Locked doors don't keep doubts out. All they do is give you a room full of people that won't talk about them. Okay? Jesus jumps the lock, right? And he got close, meaning that if you're experiencing some doubts in your faith, you're experiencing some stuff in your life, some fears, some anxieties, some worries, all of that kind of stuff, listen, you might as well just invite him into the middle of it because you're not tricking him and you're not fooling him. He already knows what you're thinking and what you're feeling and what you're going through. So just invite him into it. Your doubts don't dictate his distance. In fact, it's the opposite. Watch this. They might actually indicate not only his nearness, but his calling on your life of what he needs you to overcome to take the ride he wants you to go on. Okay? He will be as near to you as you want on your ride.